Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association. Tonight we have a gentleman that is running for 5th District in Council, Mr. Ed Bell. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing well, big bro. Good to
All
see
right,
you.
it's good to be seen.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Ed, talk to our community about who you are and what you have to offer out there in the 5th District and to total Kansas City as a county. Yeah.
Well, I'm KC's native son. I'm born and raised here. I graduated from Bishop Hogan when it's still Bishop Hogan. I got my 2 undergrads from Park University, got my executive MBA from Benedictine. I've been an educator, worked in non-for-profit, done a lot of community advocacy work, been a 5th District PIAC rep the past 4 years, working with neighborhoods.
Tell our audience what PIAC is.
PIAC is a Public Improvement Advisory Committee. It's based off of a small percentage sales tax that is redirected for capital improvements and neighborhood improvements. So sidewalks, curbs, easements. We work with every municipal department to help provide leverage funding or to fund parks and recs, water department, or just various departments projects to help make our city work and run better. We serve as the council person's proxy, so if they're not present, then we would serve in their place. But we work very close and hand in hand with our council folk in trying to help make our districts and the overall city better.
Off camera, yesterday we were talking a little bit about TIP, and you was telling me the things that you had promoted and championed. Tell our audience a little bit about that.
So in regards to...
and what TIF is.
So in regards to TIF, tax incremental financing, it is just pretty much a tool that the municipality uses to incentivize and, I guess to some degree, put some skin in the game, sometimes too much skin in the game, to encourage developers to come here. As we were talking, my perspective is it's not a bad thing, but it needs to be done in the right way, and it can be done on the backs of poor people, it can be done on the backs of our school district, which is supposed to be our social equalizer.
Right.
But we see that hasn't been the case, and we understand what the issue is with our school district. If Kansas City, Missouri school district is viable, there's no Johnson County.
Right.
We understand that. So, and that's not to be anti anything or anybody, but it's to say we want resources not to be diverted out of our core, but we want it to circulate within our core and bring in outside resources to help grow a larger denominator. So there's a larger numerator.
Basically, that's the same page that Crosby Kemper was on when he came here, and he was talking about TIF and the money going on the plaza instead of going in the communities where it's supposed to go. All right, go on a little bit about what you envision for the 5th District.
5th District has probably the most, and I might be a little biased, but probably the most opportunity to help Kansas City be a leader and not a laggard. The diversity within the district allows a myriad of opportunities to do real partnerships with the community. I see green technology, small-scale manufacturing, workforce development that really leads to upward mobility. So we really have an opportunity to create jobs that people can have a living wage that won't be temporary but long term. And when I talk about small scale manufacturing, I'm talking about simple things as taking recyclables and redoing our sewer caps. If you look at the sewer caps in KC, they all say made in India. Right? Or when we think about green technology, there's awesome opportunities to create or build solar panels, to build the battery cells for the electric cars. Kansas City is part of the Paris Agreement. Part of that agreement is to move to an electrical fleet of buses, so we can be building the battery cells, doing the manufacturing for that, and then having that be a job creation, workforce development program to bring people in. But then also there's some things very close to the ground we can do. We see all these potholes, right? We got a bunch of brothers and sisters sitting up in county jail or whatnot, not being able to pay child support, not being able to pay these small municipal fines. Well, that's an awesome opportunity to do workforce development. We can train people to fill in those potholes, to do that public works, and that becomes a transferable skill because one, public works has a whole bunch of job openings for that, but then two, we got major developments coming on that airport. And what is the airport? It's a long street. People can get out there and lay that street and participate in a way that they probably couldn't have before.
How do you think the past representation has represented our community? Per se,
I think there's 2 sides to that coin. I think one side is that people oftentimes come in very well intentioned and want to do good, but they don't know where the bathroom is in City Hall. So you spend half your term navigating, trying to figure out who's who, what's what, and who's really going to do what for you. Third year, you probably get a little bit something done. Fourth year, you back to campaign again. You didn't get nothing done. I think the other side of it, too, is that in certain districts, we've had leadership deficits because we've had gaps in continuity in programming, in leadership, in messaging, in participation, in partnerships. So you have the individual groups, the silos, all fighting, and when we should be coming together, collaborating. And so major part of me running is trying to be that leader, especially me being a native son. I've been here. This is my community. This is where I'm at.
I know you reached out to us on numerous occasions on different subject matter.
But that's the other thing too. You know, we got to have public officials and community service that understand the value of what our community partners bring. I mean, not just your sports network, but your news network is across the nation, across the globe. And it's a valuable resource for leaders to be able to take control of their narrative and to communicate that. And you're a visionary in doing that. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I think that should be a model for all of our public servants. Use the resources we have organically, because that does an awesome opportunity for branding for Kansas City, not just barbecue, but our businesses, right?
I am so, boy, I don't even know what to say. You flooring me with that because that's been my overriding thing for the last 5 years. Here we are with, in 90 cities, 10 different countries, the largest African-American audience in the metro area and totally underutilized.
Right.
And especially by my own community. And so I'm more, how do you think and why do you think that is? Do you, when it comes to digital technology and using these new tools out here, do you attribute that to the lack of communications in our leadership, or what? If you have an opinion on that,
I do, and I'll be honest, it's not popular. You know, it's kind of like courting your mate. What you use to get him or her, you got to use to keep him and her. And oftentimes we'll use the technological outlets to get there, but when we get there, then we don't value them as much. We'll disregard them, or we think other people's ice is colder or Kool-Aid is a little sweeter. And that's just false. And what that really does is it puts us again in a deficit situation, because if I use you to help me get to the mountaintop, then I should be walking with you as we go across the mountaintop and going.
We tend to have short memories.
So-called promised land. And so, but that also allows us to grow the business capacity. There's about 2.7 million African American businesses. I think less than 11% of them actually employ somebody other than themselves.
Yeah, well, Kansas City Business Journal about a month ago, they said this is one of the worst places for entrepreneurs. And if it's for entrepreneurs, African American entrepreneurs is really at the bottom of the heap. How do you plan, if you get in office, to help push for more business coming to your community? We're paying taxes, and from my perspective, we're not getting a whole lot for them. And from our representation, regardless of what they're saying, I'm in business, and we have the Kansas City Business Association, and we talk to our businesses, right. And they're having problems with financing. They're having problems with interacting with the major majority community, the downtown council, and such. How do you plan to address some of these issues of economics that are coming in our community?
So it's going to be approached from a couple different ends that you're going to have to move together at the same time. I think the first thing is you have to have a message of integrity.
Oh,
right?
boy.
And that is, if I go with you or I don't go with you, I need to be able to come to you and get a clear and believable understanding of why that is. But most importantly, then what do I need to do to qualify next time? That has to be integral. I think the second thing that has to happen is we have to have a strong education campaign to reprogram the social programming that we've had. We have to re-educate our people.
Explain to them about what you're saying in some layman's terms.
So when you see an image, it gives you a message alongside of it. And oftentimes the type of imaging becomes prevalent, you begin to think that is what that is all the time. So if I show on the news somebody who looks like me as the boogeyman, as the criminal, whether I'm walking down the street happily or hurriedly or not, you may tend to look at me differently than somebody who doesn't look like me walking down the street because of the social programming that's told you, hey, time and time again, visually, this is what the problem looks like. This is what the problem looks like. And so we have to reprogram and get people to stop being scared of people. We have to turn our hoods back into neighborhoods, turn our communities back into livable communities. And that just comes simply from sitting down and talking to somebody. What we have to understand is that you're not going to convince somebody in a 30-minute conversation. You're not going to change their mind. They spent years, decades formulating what they think, how they think, and where they get that information from. What we need to do is to plant seeds and to be collaborative.
All right. Tell me this. How do you see this water situation as it relates to our community with the trolley car, and I'm getting more information that's going to affect our community.
So let me say this. I am very concerned about our water situation, because when you look at cities like Flint, Michigan, and they still don't have clean water. Any and every city is a misstep or mishap from being in that situation. And our voting public and citizens at large feel like there's a barrier of transparency and a lack of open, honest dialogue with our water department, whether it be the lack of audits, whether it be the lack of getting clarity on why our water bills are consistently going up. And Dr. Benny Yakub at UMKC had done a study to show the poorer your zip code, the poorer your water quality. And so we really need to, in a collaborative fashion, sit down and really discuss what's going on with the state of our utilities, how can we improve them for the long haul, what we can do as far as green infrastructure, green technology. That might even yield some avenues in the agribusiness, right? Because we have people like Dre Taylor who are doing awesome things with the Nile Valley aquaponics system. And so we have to be collaborative and supportive of those efforts. But when I think about our water situation, it does lead
and those bills that are going to come to our community,
and the fact that that you can have an airport deal that goes and borrows $90 million from the water department makes me think one of two things. The water department got $90 million sitting somewhere? And if you don't, where are you getting that $90 million from? Oh, an increase in our water rates. And who really regulates or can provide some public input into making sure that we aren't priced out of having water the same way we're being priced out of our neighborhoods? And the way our city ordinances go, if you don't have water in that structure, you can't stay in that structure.
Right.
So it's interrelated, and it definitely is becoming a moral issue, because if I'm required to pay taxes and be a citizen under this system, I'm obligated to participate, then you're obligated to give me some benefits for that participation.
All right. On really closing, what I want to know is, what do you think differentiates you from the other candidates?
I try not to speak about, other people's capabilities or whatnot, but I will say in my race, I've been working directly in and with City Hall for the past 4 years, and with neighborhoods. I'm the only person in my race that's leveraged something from City Hall to neighborhoods tangibly. But also, I'm the only candidate in my race and a lot of other races who are talking on a practical level. How do we partner with City Hall and our community to create job and employment opportunities that are sustainable, that lead to things? We have a pothole issue. Again, we talk about all the time, training brothers for that, getting them employment, think about the airport, but then also we're building a capacity for skilled labor, but also we can be creating a new wave of entrepreneurs who can hire other folks. So there's a lot of opportunities that we could be tapping into, but if you don't have leadership who doesn't understand it, and most importantly, who's humble enough to say, I don't know, but can you help me? Can you teach me? Let's go figure it out together. That's really what's lacking. We need servant leaders.
All right. What I would say to our audience, be sure that you know who you're voting for.
Yes.
Look at their background, and be safe. What's up, Kansas City?
This program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.